winner of the New Jersey Press Association's Most Innovative Award.
Welcome back to Greater Media Broadcast News. I'm Susie Shea, bringing you the top headlines in Central New Jersey. Here's what's happening in your neighborhood this week. Sayreville football controversy, suicide bridge, extending health care, discussing the death penalty, and farm to school. The leaves are still on the trees, but the football season is over in Sayreville. The season has been canceled for all football teams at Sayreville War Memorial High School as a criminal investigation into alleged hazing incidents continues. The allegations state that several members of the varsity football team may have harassed freshman players. But this controversy is not the only one the team is facing. One of the school's assistant football coaches was allegedly found with 800 milligrams of steroids. Police and school officials say this could raise questions about the possibility of performance-enhancing drugs in the football program. For more on this issue, see your Greater Media newspaper today. And here's Mark Rosman with a local high school's 50th anniversary in Jackson.
There is celebration in Jackson Township this week as Jackson Memorial High School marks its 50th anniversary on homecoming weekend. From 2 to 6:30 p.m. on October 10th, administrators, faculty members, students, and alumni will gather at the school to recount their achievements over the past 5 decades. Prior to the construction of Jackson Memorial in the mid-1960s, high school students who lived in Jackson attended Lakewood High School. By the time Jackson Memorial was built, there were about 10,000 people living in town. The high school graduated its first class in 1966, and one of the members of that class will be on hand as a featured speaker. Another individual who will address the guests will be Bernie Ryder, the school's former wrestling coach whose teams built a tradition of excellence over several decades. Current students will lead tours through the school to show alumni the additions and upgrades that have been made over the years. Following the gathering, the party will move to the football field, where the Jaguars will play host to Toms River North High School, and the school's tradition will expand by another chapter. Today, there are about 60,000 residents in Jackson, and in September 2006, the community's second high school, Jackson Liberty, opened its doors. For more details, see this week's Tri-Town News.
A well-known anti-death penalty activist came to Old Bridge High School to share her views with the next generation. Jeremy Grossman has more on Helen PREH-JOHN.
Students at Old Bridge High School were challenged with questions of human rights and decency upon being visited by Sister Helen PREH-JOHN, the famed advocate for abolition of the death penalty. PREH-JOHN is the author of Dead Man Walking, written about her experiences as a spiritual advisor to a man on death row. The book was adapted into a 1995 film of the same name, which starred Susan Sarandon as PREH-JOHN and for which Sarandon received an Academy Award. PREH-JOHN led a complex and thought-provoking discussion with the students, asking them to question their initial understandings of the death penalty. After speaking with the students, PREH-JOHN said her faith was renewed, seeing young people take an interest in such important and controversial issues. To learn more about PREH-JOHN's visit to Old Bridge High School, visit gmnews.com.
And here's a roundup of headlines from this week's papers. The NFL and Major League Baseball have joined the U.S. Justice Department in seeking an injunction to stop the state from allowing sports betting at racetracks and casinos. The move comes after Governor Chris Christie gave the go-ahead to the practice in September. Advocates are seeking to extend health care funding for first responders whose health was negatively impacted by 9/11. Representative Frank Pallone is leading the fight to stretch the James Zadroga 9/11 Health and Compensation Act, which is set to expire at the end of 2015. Advocates hope to extend the bill an additional 25 years. A bridge that connects Sayreville and Perth Amboy has become a symbol of tragedy for local residents. Originally named the Victory Bridge, the structure now has earned the nickname of Suicide Bridge, as there have been more than 85 suicide attempts there since 2008. The most recent attempt took place last week, and officials are grappling with ways to prevent people from jumping. A package of bills that strengthens the ties between healthy school meals and local farmers has been signed into law. The legislation will bolster the state's farm-to-school program, which aims to bring locally grown produce into school cafeterias. For a list of what changes the bills will bring and for more on any of these stories, see your Greater Media newspaper today. And here's Mike Pavlichko of Greater Media's WCTC with an update on Rutgers football. After that, we have Tim Morris with more on local sports.
Well, we're at the midway point of the Rutgers football season and time to give the Scarlet Knights a grade on the first bye week. They're 5-1. So far, so good. Exactly where I thought they would be, even though I thought they would beat Penn State and lose to Michigan. But they got that first Big Ten win under their belt, 26-24 over the weekend against the Wolverines. And a big part of that was Kamoko Ture. He came up with a big play at the end of the game. The blocked field goal, a long field goal, got his hand on it, kept the Scarlet Knights up by 2 instead of giving Michigan a 1-point lead with a made field goal. He got Special Teams Player of the Week honors for that. First RU player to win in that category. And it's part of a continuing trend for the Scarlet Knights, as in 4 games this year, they've had to make a play at the end of the game. And while they didn't against Penn State, they did it at Washington State, they did it at Navy, and they did it against the Wolverines. Ture, by the way, leading the nation with 3 block kicks. The Scarlet Knights leading with 5. And Ture, maybe the team's MVP right now, defensively has 5.5 sacks to lead the Big Ten. But how about Gary Nova? A 404-yard career-high passing performance against the Wolverines. 3 touchdowns, most importantly, no interceptions. He was Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week. Not bad as we get to the midway point. The Scarlet Knights, 5-1. The one lone blemish, Penn State, I give them a B+. I'm Mike Pavlichko on 1450 WCTC and WCTCAM.com.
As we head towards the middle of October, we have 2 undefeated teams in the Freehold Regional District. Freehold and Manalapan are both 4-0 and tied for first place in the Shore Conference A North Division. While Freehold has been the feel-good story of the fall with its unexpected debut in the division, Manalapan just keeps rolling along. The Braves extended their regular season win streak to 30 and consecutive A North Division victories to 22 last weekend when they beat Middletown North 56-34. Manalapan came out of the tunnel in a cloud of smoke. But it was Middletown North that was on fire early. On the third play from scrimmage, Troy Thompson turned this pass from quarterback Donald Glenn into an 83-yard touchdown. After falling behind 14-0, Manalapan went back to what it does best, running the football. Behind its wall of blockers and a steady diet of Imamu Mayfield's punishing runs, the Braves leaned on the Bryant defense until it broke. Here, Mayfield scores the first of his 4 touchdowns. This short burst was touchdown number 2 for the star running back from Manalapan. Ben Chikowski, here diving over the middle of the line. And John Chung took their turns hitting pay dirt. Manalapan brought out the Air Force as well. Quarterback Dan Anarella hooked up with receiver Gerard Hodge-Rocourt for this touchdown. Fine catches by Kyle Mullen here. And by Tyson Plummer here. Helped set up Manalapan touchdowns. This is Tim Morris, Greater Media Newspapers.
A local animal shelter is in hot water. Here's Adam Ujago.
The Borough of Spotswood will pull out of contracts for animal control and impoundment services with the Borough of Helmetta over concerns surrounding conditions at the Helmetta Regional Animal Shelter. County inspectors visited the shelter last week, prompted by reports of a cat being adopted out with distemper, a fatal virus found in felines. Inspectors cited a number of violations, including a failure to document results of a parvovirus test and a failure to track animals with ID numbers. However, a follow-up report stated that improvements had been made and that the shelter director had scheduled more infractions for abatement. Spotswood withdrawal comes after the dissolution of the Animal Shelter Committee in Helmetta and intense pressure from residents, according to Mayor Nicholas Policino. For more on this story, see our article in this week's East Brunswick Sentinel.
A mail carrier became a local hero when she saved someone's life. Here's Sarah Lear with more details.
A typical day of delivering mail along her route quickly turned into a day of saving someone's life for Glenda Mix, a Woodbridge resident and letter carrier in Raritan, New Jersey. On September 30th, Mix was presented with the General Postmaster and Hero Award for coming to the aid of a Thompson Street resident in Raritan on April 23rd. While along her normal route, Mix came across a woman slumped over the wheel of her car unresponsive. Mix quickly called 911 and stood with the resident until emergency services arrived. She's being credited by emergency responders, the Postal Service, and the resident's family for saving a life. To read more about Mix's life-saving efforts, read this week's Woodbridge Sentinel.
For more in-depth coverage and additional stories, see your Greater Media newspaper today. Share your opinion on these stories at facebook.com/Greater Media Broadcast News. I'm Susie Shea. See you next time.